And greetings. Yes, we are back after vacation. This year we decided to try and spread it out a little bit more rather than take a whole bunch, in the fourth quarter because we didn't take enough during the rest of the year, especially with it being an election year. So my name is Steve Deace, in case you had forgotten. His name is Todd Erzin, and you don't need to know that guy over there's name. He only makes it happen, and we couldn't possibly do this without him. His name is Aaron McIntyre. We have forgotten all of your names. Please don't email them to me, though, all at once, because that would be annoying. But you can try little by little. Steve at stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. You can like us on Facebook, MeWe, Parler, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter and Getter. And we had a great time in Vegas. I got a lot of nice notes from people wishing us a great time. Thank you very much. I'd only been there for business before. I'd never been there for pleasure. We saw a bunch of shows. Only one of them, the Blue Man Group, I thought was okay. I've never been into them. My wife's a big fan. She was disappointed, but I had no anticipation, so I thought it was okay. I don't know what the Cirque du Soleil Beatles show, that was my idea. I don't know what that was. I was like, what the hell is this? I mean, I had that look on my face. I had that mullet GIF guy, WTF look on my face, like throughout the vast majority of it. Okay.
I never in my life thought I would hear you say the Cirque du Soleil was my idea.
Well, it was a Beatles show.
I hardly know you anymore.
It was a Beatles show, so I thought it was okay. And then we went to the top rated, according to Yelp, we're in Vegas, got to see a magic show. We figured it'd be David Copperfield, right? No, it was some guy named Chris Angel that I guess has been around forever.
Oh, yeah.
I never heard his name before. And then his show starts off with this like massive montage of all these pop culture icons referring to him or having him on their shows, from like Oprah to Adam Sandler to all kinds of people. And I'm like, how is it possible I've never heard this guy's name before?
Magic.
Right? Yeah. But he was that was fairly enjoyable. But we had a great time. One of our chief mucky muck here at Blaze Media, he recommended we stay at the, Aria. We stayed at the Aria, and it was very, very nice. Yeah. And the Italian restaurant there, the Carbone restaurant, I mean, it was, I'm a bit of an Italian food connoisseur, obviously, being a little Sicilian myself, and it was phenomenal. The ambiance and everything. I will tell you, though, I did see, and it was two things that were hard not to notice. There were a lot of May-December couples there. Do you know what that means? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of May-December couples with the woman was May and the guy was December, right? A lot of those. Okay. I mean, a lot of those. You don't know what that means?
No, I don't.
Means a lot of older men with younger women there.
Oh, okay.
Demonstrably younger women too.
Gotcha.
Okay. There was a lot of that everywhere we went. The other thing we saw is, I would say about 20 to 25% of the people were still wearing masks that we saw. But of that 20 to 25%, I'd guess 70 to 75% of them were Asians. So apparently that's just a culturally inherent thing to do, that they are just used to it from a compliance perspective. So that was kind of our big weekend trip. I know you moved into a new house.
Yes, we did.
All right. Yeah. So the McIntyres, you guys are like an official family or something now. You got a kid in a house.
Exactly.
No one died?
No one died.
You didn't kill each other over your first house move?
Poor guy in our small group rolled his ankle really bad, but other than his ankle being completely obliterated, nothing was damaged in the move. Not even
your relationship.
Not even our relationship.
I mean, don't take that for granted when you're married. So you guys pulled that one off. That's cool. Maybe with a teething toddler, the Lord decided one annoying McIntyre was enough for you guys at this particular moment.
Yes.
What did you guys do?
It was pretty tame, and this was kind of a working vacation for me. You've got me on something, and I had to put in some hours.
Decided to use some time to catch up on that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, we're looking forward to telling people about that, but it's not quite time yet. Okay, but
I keep waiting for one time I go through to be like, yeah, this doesn't. Every time I'm like, what the hell, man?
And I'm trying to, in my head, sort this out in what order this is going to go in, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Imagine you're sitting there listening to the stuff that you are transcribing live, and I'm just like not breathing.
Do I go chaos, hell, damnation, or damnation, chaos, hell? Which one?
Yes, exactly. Everybody's like, all right, tell us. We will here. We can't tell you for a few more months, but yeah. So thank you for getting caught up on that as well. Also, on my way here, I got caught up. Actually, I took a bunch of Built Bars with me. I did. Yeah. So I had my protein with. I had one of my side stacks of the Paranormal Pumpkin Puff Bars. I brought one of those boxes with me for my protein there. And Built Bar remains the number one best tasting, and it should be best selling because it is the best tasting protein bar of all time. And they've got so many great flavors to choose from. Get the variety box. That was kind of the OG for Built Bar. That's got in there double chocolate, cookies and cream, coconut, mint brownie. Those are the flavors that sold me originally before they started expanding their repertoire over there. And all of them covered in real chocolate and loaded with flavor and protein, not loaded with carbs, calories, and sugars. Try it today or try it again for 15% off on me. Get 15% off courtesy of yours truly when you use my last name, Deace, as your promo code at built.com for Built Bar. That's built.com for Built Bar. All right, coming up on the show today, we have a jam-packed show today. At the bottom of this hour, fake news or not, we will have a guest with us, Julie Kelly from American Greatness, because she presided over the Whitmer kidnapping trial that wasn't actually a kidnapping, but yet another false flag operation, with this time the judge and the jury saying, yeah, we're not buying this. So we will get to that story. I don't think that, to me, that can't be understated, that story, enough, which is why I was furiously texting you while I was on my vacation. Let's make sure we get it on right when we come back. All right, so we'll get to that for fake news or not. At the top of hour 2, Dr. Ryan Cole will rejoin us to give us the latest rundown on COVID data, the jabs, and more. Yeah, he actually has just got done from like a national speaking tour on COVID information. So we'll get to a little bit of a rundown on what he was sharing and hearing from others. We'll get to that coming up at the top of next hour. And then Pop Culture Tuesday, the Babylon Bee put out like in reaction to a recent controversy, how every infotainment outlet out there from that they could think of, right to left, would respond in a headline. And I just thought it would be fun to go through these one by one. All right. And did they hit the nail on the head here? Okay. Because I kind of thought they went as Moses Malone once said, faux, faux, faux. I thought they kind of swept the board when I looked at it.
Well, that's what they always do, which is why they're now banned.
That's why they got banned, because they're too good at this. Yes. All right, so we'll get to all that and more. But first, we must begin, as we usually do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by inflation. You knew it was going to be bad when the White House used this verbiage to get out ahead of today's numbers.
Because of the actions we've taken to address the Putin price hike, we are in a better place than we were last month. But we expect March CPI headline inflation to be extraordinarily elevated.
Well, we got the Consumer Price Index report this morning, and prices have soared 8.5% year over year. That's the highest mark since 1981. Anyway, about those Putin price hikes, U.S. intel officials told NBC recently they're just making stuff up about the conflict in Ukraine.
We're also told the intelligence wasn't very clear about what exactly was going on. Really interesting and unprecedented use of intelligence here, Allison.
Yeah, Ken, as you just said, not just intelligence here, unprecedented use. One U.S. official telling you it doesn't even have to be solid intelligence when we talk about it. It's more important to get out ahead of them. Putin specifically, before they do something, it's preventative.
CBS News reports over 150 financial transactions involving either Hunter Biden or his uncle James Biden's international business dealings were flagged as concerning by U.S. banks for further review. Joe Biden, your thoughts?
Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to prostitute being sued. Come on.
There was a heck of a Friday evening news dump late last week. 2 men were acquitted by a jury in Michigan in the alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer back in October of 2020. The jury was hung on 2 other men allegedly involved as well. Essentially, this means a jury found the FBI entrapped at least 2 of these men into committing a crime against a prominent Democrat official while millions of Americans were already voting in the 2020 election. Also last week, a judge in D.C. acquitted an individual charged with misdemeanors for entering the Capitol during the events at the Capitol on January 6th, 2020. The defendant claimed police let him into the rotunda and had evidence his claims were correct. Meanwhile, in China, that's the sound of tens of thousands of Shanghai residents screaming in distress after the entire city was placed on a lockdown last week, apparently because of COVID. Videos have been surfacing on the regular of those who have purportedly taken their own life as extreme starvation hits the city of 26 million residents, all locked in their homes with apparently no plan on when they can come back out. The city of Philadelphia has reinstated its mask mandate as COVID cases in the Northeast begin another uptick. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tested positive while we were gone, along with Attorney General Merrick Garland, a couple of congressmen, Adam Schiff and Joaquin Castro, so there's that. The largest individual shareholder of Twitter, Elon Musk, is not joining Twitter's board of directors after all. Musk's appointment to the board last week was apparently contingent upon him promising not to own more than 15% of the shares of the company. Musk's shirking of the board invitation is causing some to speculate if the billionaire is planning a more hostile takeover of the company. Yesterday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced a new initiative aimed at helping fathers strengthen their families.
There was actually an article, a column in the New York Times that said, it was titled, "The Nuclear Family Was a Mistake." And you have other people that kind of poo-poo the idea of father. I just want to be sure in Florida, we are not going to be following this propaganda. We're going to put programs in place that support fathers and help families stay connected and engage with each other.
The $70 million measure funds programs to support fathers and help families stay connected. Groomer update, here's a random elementary school teacher.
Kids as young as 3 and 4 are actually aware of their gender identity, even if they don't have the language for it. Also very aware of who they like and who they don't like. Heterosexuality is pushed on our kids on a daily basis at a very young age. Media, through books. The first Disney movie that you saw. To say that pre-K through 3rd grade are not ready for such topics is actually internalized homophobia and transphobia. They're very much ready for these topics and are way more accepting than adults when it comes to discussing these topics.
A new Trafalgar Group poll shows nearly 70% of respondents say Disney's push to expose young children to sexual and gender ideas makes them less likely to do business with the company. And finally, a seminar on critical grooming theory. Here's BlazeTV's Ali Stuckey.
Welcome to our DEI training. DEI stands for Don't Entice Infants. That's really anti-grooming training. It's not enough to be not a groomer. One must be actively anti-grooming. And really those who are defending themselves against accusations of grooming are expressing their groomer fragility. This is just evidence that they are a groomer. It's important to know that silence is violence when it comes to the grooming of children. If you are not actively working to dismantle the systems of grooming that have been oppressing children, you are either complicit in systemic grooming or you are a groomer yourself. We need to know better so we can do better.
And that's what happened while we were away.
That was extremely well done by Ali. And she put up a thread, by the way, kind of leading up to that over the weekend that I thought was pretty tremendous as well. It's almost the end for you, right?
Yes.
All right. Lent is almost over. All right. So I know this is kind of when you like you're on the highway and you're like, I really got to pee. And it says rest stop 50 miles and you're like, all right, I got this. Then when it says rest stop 2 miles, suddenly you feel like you can't hold it any longer, right? Okay. So you might want to cover your ears while I talk about Bonner Private Wine, because I know we're getting to the end of your dry spell here. And so I don't want to put you on edge here, our very first day back from vacation. But you can get access to some of the best imported red wines on planet Earth, grown deep in the Andes Mountains by families just like the old chateaus of old. They've been doing this for centuries, and they are some of the best red wines you've ever tasted. All three of us like them. Todd has a special affinity for these wines. If you want to try them right now, you can get half off the wine and half off the shipping when you go to BonnerPrivateWines.com. BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve. That's BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve. Half off the first, or half off the wine, and then also half off the shipping. You got to forgive me. My flight didn't get until 1:30 last night, man. So I'm half adrenaline, half dead. All right. BonnerPrivateWines.com/Steve. In the overtime today, a poll came out while we were gone that shows maybe I've been too hard on suburban white women. No, it actually doesn't show that at all. And instead, it says that we need to actually come stronger. Okay. Amazingly, Joe Biden has lost ground with every demographic group but one. And he hasn't, in fact, lost ground with this group, but he's gained. For example, college-aged men have seen a 26-point swing against Joe Biden since he was elected. Yet, college women, who are overwhelmingly white, he's actually grown that base. How do we possibly explain that?
Well, I know we can't say men and women are different because I'm not a biologist, and neither are you.
But you maybe could then therefore be a Supreme Court justice, brother.
I forgot to put that in the montage.
Yeah, I will say this. If hi, I'm not a biologist, but I'd like to confirm you're a woman. If that's not the new pickup line, I don't want to live in this world anymore. Okay. But we're going to get into that with our colleague, Sarah Gonzalez. We will tape that for you right after today's show. And you can watch it if you are a Blaze TV subscriber later today at blazetv.com/Deace. If you're not yet one, go to blazetv.com/Deace. And I don't know if my code is still working, but you can try it, see if it does. If it gives you 20% off when you go, if you try Deace 20. So I don't know. I always find out things at the last minute around here, mainly because I don't pay attention. Deace 20 was the code that was working before we went on vacation. I don't know if it still is, but give it a shot. See if it gives you 20% off. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But you can get a discounted subscription one way or the other when you go to blazetv.com/Deace. All right. So from the montage, we're going to get into the Whitmer plot and then the judge acquitting. We've got our first outright acquittal of a January 6th defendant. We're going to get into those stories here at the bottom of the hour with our colleague, our friend, Julie Kelly over at American Greatness. She's been on our show so damn much, starting to feel like she's a colleague, but she's earned that time because she is doing the Lord's work right now on numerous topics. On inflation, what more can you say? Apparently, pausing your economy, printing 80% of the currency that you have in the 241-year history of your republic in just the last couple of years, and then following that up with unprecedented levels of government spending, while also taking the largest industry in the two largest industries in your country, by the way, are energy and education. Those are the two largest industries in America. And has government done anything in the last couple of years to wreck the output levels of those two industries? Can you think of anything that's gone on the last couple of years that might have hindered the productivity that we have seen from the energy and education sectors? Anything at all come to mind?
Let's go, Brandon.
Indeed. So when you do everything wrong, these are the results you get. I don't know how else to. I don't know what other analysis to add to that. Other than you and I are the ones that will suffer as a result. Is having 150 flagged financial transactions for the President of the United States' son, is that bad? Is it disconcerting to have the family of the President of the United States financially beholden to our chief geopolitical rival?
I was reliably informed by that journalist at the disinformation conference that if you're not interested in it, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It's not on your radar.
All right, so let's get into the Elon Musk thing again, okay? Because I think we're about to find out if he's fake news or not. There are two ways to look at why he has chosen not to join Twitter's board. And I don't know that anyone can say which one is the correct one, because that answer will be determined by what he does next. And it's the answer that I think a lot of us obviously are hoping for. A lot of our peers here in alternative and conservative media immediately jumped to this conclusion, and Aaron, you alluded to it in your montage. In any other era of American history, this would not only be the most likely option entertained, but it would be the only one. That the world's richest man only bought these shares because he was concerned about a platform that is used as the primary means for those that work within the media and intellectual and opinion-shaping sectors of the culture, where we come together and iron out and clash and hash out our differences. He's concerned with one-sided censorship, wants to do something about it, and so became their largest shareholder with that intent. And then when he realized if he were to buy more shares or more actively take a role in accumulating allies with more shares, that would cause the cost of being on the board would be to forfeit that opportunity. Okay? He chose not to do so. In any other era of good old-fashioned American capitalism, that would be all we'd be discussing. That we would be discussing, so how's Elon going to do the deed here? I mean, does he just walk in, Al Pacino style in The Untouchables? A team, the next Twitter board meeting, a team is only as good as its weakest link, and then you know how that ends, right? Is it Glengarry, Glen Ross? Second place, a set of steak knives, okay? In any other era, that's what we would be discussing. But men, and there's very few of you, we don't live in that era. We don't. And I want to be wrong, man. Trust me. I want to really be wrong. But forgive me if the last few years have taught me to not put your trust in the allure of the alpha male. I couldn't fire Fauci. There's nothing. I mean, the media would get mad. Lock her up! Oh, coup, cool. Yeah, I mean, a second coup, great. Anyway, stop the steal or something. I mean, the last few years have taught me. On multiple fronts, by the way. That's hurtful. Yes, I know.
Jeff Sessions.
Have taught me not to trust in the allure of alpha males, because very few of them exist any longer in the West. Very few of them do. So I want to be wrong, and I am sympathetic. I ran this by our CEO over the weekend, Tyler. And he's like, I just can't imagine you buy $1 billion worth of stock without the intent of a follow-through action, which is what he did, what Elon did. And I'd have said, yeah, you're right, but I can't imagine shutting down a $4 trillion economy in an election year without any follow-up plan for how you're going to reboot it again, and then outsourcing your entire presidency to Mike Pence and Anthony Fauci. For goodness sake, stab me. Gadang me, badang me, somebody get a rope and hang me. Who would have envisioned that? But we watched it happen, and we're all still paying for it as we speak. And then he endorsed Dr. Oz, who was for self-mutilation surgery about a decade before any of us actually knew what the hell it was. Okay? So forgive me if I'm not there on trusting on the whims of alpha males. First of all, what are they? What is this species of alpha male of which you speak? Which is why I think it's also just as likely that he just doesn't have it in, Dude got lucky with PayPal and a few other things and subsidies to help start electric cars. And next thing you know, he's got $300 billion and a bowl haircut and thought that this would be a cute troll move. And then when he saw that they were actually the pipsqueaks there were going to melt down and push back, just decided, okay, I'll just, get my rocks off here on Twitter. I don't want that latter explanation, Todd, to be accurate. But remind me, unless you live in the state of Florida, the last time you put your trust in an alpha male and it came through here in the West, go, and I'll wait.
This vacation of yours was fantastic. You took the crazy voices in your head. You pulled them closer to you. You dialed their voice up to 11. I'm all in. All in.
You were supposed to tell me what you just said there doesn't make any logical sense, Steve. Of course, the dude's going to war. That's what you're supposed to tell me.
Nope.
I don't know. I don't know why you would buy $1 billion in stocks, consider getting on the board, and then shirk that offer or that appointment if you didn't have larger designs. It's clear that Twitter internally is panicking a little bit about this. Now, it doesn't take much for them to panic because they're all made up of leftist wimps, but they took off a day, according to the Post Millennial, a Canadian publication, they took a day off to deal with the stress of the Elon Musk news, guys. So whether or not that's just them being soft, which it is, or there's some there. I don't know. I need something to hope for. And so I'm going to say, yeah, he is planning a hostile takeover. I hope.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The money, as much as that is, he can lose. Which is why I think you're right to ask all the questions you ask. The problem is they get alligator arms when they go across the middle.
Yes.
And when it's one thing to be all bravado and to talk at the line of scrimmage, but once you go across the middle and you think and you may, but
you don't know, and you never will.
Just to prove Todd's point, when was the last time we mentioned or you guys heard about a bombshell episode of the Joe Rogan Experience?
Yes, great point. I mean, I've worked in media professionally at a high level in two fields, sports and politics. And the two things I've seen, and on the politics side, sports, I wasn't good enough to be an active participant, but on the politics side, I've not only been a commentator, I've been on the field, in the game. I've been into extreme wealth homes to raise money for causes and candidates. All right? And I'm just going to tell you, in both of those arenas, the Fords, guys, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. The Ford family is one of the most successful and ongoingly successful families in the history of American enterprise, right?
Mm-hmm.
They bought the Detroit Lions in, I think, 1962 and have won one playoff game since then. Daniel Snyder had Elon Musk money, then bought the Washington Redskins. What the hell has that been? You know what I'm saying? For 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
In politics and sports, I've seen a lot of guys with extreme wealth can become complete idiots and manginas, fanboys, jock sniffers, morons, giving money to all forms of causes just because they want to feel like they belong. And then more times than not, I'm wondering, how did you get all this money? And then what am I doing wrong that I don't have it? All right. Julie Kelly is next. Well, one of the things we got to do when we got back from 5 days off and being away in Vegas is we got reunited with our little puppy, Cap. Of course, he was at his favorite place on earth, Grandma's, for the last several days. But just another reminder, and now the little things like right when I'm about to do something important, sit down to eat, work out, go to work, is when he suddenly needs to go out. And so I have to stop what I'm doing to let him out, right? The kinds of things that kind of annoy you when it's just the day-to-day things. after being away from your little pet for a few days, you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of cute. Now tomorrow it'll annoy me again. Anyway, another reminder though, that those dogs are really just a part of the family. That's why we want to make sure that they're as healthy and happy as we can make them. And that's where our friends over at RUFF Greens come in, because now they've got a supplement for your pet, because it needs one for the same reasons we take so many supplements these days, because they strip a lot of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients out of our human food that we need for mass distribution. And they do the same thing before it leaves the factory to your pet's food as well. RUFF Greens is the supplement powder that puts all that good stuff back in. And our dog Cap absolutely loves this stuff. Maybe you're thinking, hey, I don't know if our dog will. We'll try that first bag on us for free. And see if you don't see a difference in your pet in 2 weeks or less. That first bag is free. You just pay for the shipping when you go to ruffgreens.com. RUFF is where you can go. Ruffgreens.com, or give them a call at 833-RUFF-DOG. Let's bring in our good friend Julie Kelly over at American Greatness for this week's Fake News or Not. Good to see you again, Julie. How you been?
Good, Steve. How are you? Hope you had fun in Vegas.
We did have fun. Thank you very much. And, you, again, were ahead of the curve, just as you were on what's been going on with January 6th, but on this Whitmer kidnapping trial. And throughout this ordeal, I have been following your up-to-the-minute tweets on the proceedings as you monitored them. Mm-hmm. And I watched you say the government, before the case was, as the case was given to the jury, the government really hasn't proven any of its claims, really. But still, how many days of deliberations before you thought, wow, we might actually see justice here? This jury might actually, they might nullify what the government tried to do here. They might stand up to this. Because I'm guessing, given what you do all the time covering this stuff, you still probably thought the fix was in, whether they showed the evidence for it or not, right?
For sure. I'm so jaded now, Steve, that I thought that the FBI or DOJ would have some kind of plant on the jury. Like, that's how
I don't blame
how
you.
Jaded, twisted I am now. Yes. But so there was a 3-week trial, about 13 days of testimony, mostly from the government, mostly FBI agents and experts, and the lead informant, of course. The defense really had almost both hands tied behind their back. They threatened some of the defense witnesses, so they refused to testify and pleaded the fifth. The judge denied several motions by the defense to introduce evidence to the jury that would show all these communications between the FBI handlers and their informants. The judge denied that. So the government had everything going for it, but I think they're so arrogant and thought for sure that this jury in Western Michigan would reject the FBI entrapment claim. So, Steve, they went into deliberations last Monday. By Wednesday afternoon, when they still didn't have a verdict, I thought, okay, this seems sort of hopeful. And then Friday morning, when they came back and said that they had verdicts on some of the counts, but could not resolve the guilt of the other counts, I started to feel a little bit hopeful. But Steve, I was so nervous. I was so nervous when they were announcing the verdicts. I could hardly type on the computer, because I thought, if they come back with these men being acquitted, being found not guilty, this is just one of the biggest embarrassments, humiliating defeat for the Justice Department, really, in its history. And that is exactly what happened. 2 men acquitted, 2 men found on a hung jury, not a single conviction in what the government considered one of its biggest domestic terror investigations in recent history.
So the context you just provided is important. The judge basically gamed the system. He was the hometown referee here. There was home cooking out there on the court, or in the court in this case. Mm-hmm. And so they really didn't just, the defense didn't just have to beat the government's case. They had to beat the government's advocate there, sitting with the gavel. And so even with all of those advantages, this was really then just an up and down verdict on the quality and potency of the government's case and evidence standalone. They still couldn't close the deal.
They couldn't, which you can see still makes me smile. And I think that's why the prosecutors really gave such a half-hearted case to the jury. I think they really thought it was a slam dunk, and especially when the judge, who I think did a very good job handling the trial in and of itself, because at the end of the day, he is the one that signed off on the jury considering
Right.
FBI entrapment. So I give him credit for that. He did a really good job. But even with everything going with the government, you had 12 Americans, and this is Western Michigan. I know you're familiar with it. I don't live that far from it either. So this is sort of Trump country, but they're also, veteran law enforcement supporters. So it could have really gone either way. And so when they came back,
Going to be a lot of Mitt Romney Republicans in West Michigan too, by the way. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Yeah.
That's true. And I was wondering, too, because a lot of the jury pool admitted that they own firearms. So a lot of the government's case rested on these videos of these training camps, of course, organized and recorded by these undercover agents and FBI informants. So I think a lot of it rested on these idea that these men had firearms and that they were training, and somehow this was incriminating evidence. And so I think that that didn't work for this jury. Now, had it been in Washington, D.C., where you have two juries now, unanimous verdicts, all guilty charges against two January 6 defendants, it might have been a different outcome. But thank God that's not where it was. It was it was outside of Washington, D.C.
Well, the founders considered juries to be the unofficial fourth branch of government, and that this was your final peaceable appeal as a check and balance against government coercion upon your freedoms and liberties. Is a jury steps in and essentially says no, and that's what we saw here. And that's I don't think it can be understated, the importance of this verdict from an Overton window standpoint, and within the world that you and I inhabit, we're only surprised that we saw the culmination, not that we saw the machinations leading up to it. A clear case of trying to craft a political narrative at the expense of the FBI as basically the stormtrooper wing of a political action committee. But to see it then confirmed by a jury, this has to pop some balloons about virtually every one of these domestic terrorist FBI narratives, doesn't it, to some degree?
It has to, Steve, because look, in 2019, and I have a piece up in American Greatness, samgreatness.com today. In 2019, Christopher Wray said, white supremacist domestic extremists pose the greatest threat to the homeland. And he specifically said that there are extremists out there who are planning to kidnap and assassinate elected officials.
Now, for those that don't remember, pardon me for just like Christopher Wray was Trump's FBI director, replacement appointee, the same guy who said Antifa is just an idea. Right. All right. But go ahead. Right. Yes.
Right. So same guy. So he created this false narrative soon after he took the helm of the FBI. But here we are, Steve, 3 years later, the only people who have concocted a plot to kidnap and assassinate any elected official is the FBI. And it wasn't just the Whitmer case that the FBI was trying to put together in 2020. There was a separate plot with these same agents and informant who was trying to induce a man in Virginia with coming up with a plot to kidnap and assassinate Ralph Northam. So they really wanted two of these narratives revealed right before the election, which is, of course, when the arrests in the Whitmer case were announced in early October 2020, as millions of people are voting. Wall-to-wall headlines, Gretchen Whitmer on the sob story publicity tour, Joe Biden ranting from the campaign trail, how Donald Trump is inciting right-wing militias who want to kill Gretchen Whitmer. Of course, all that coverage has disappeared, right? But this is another example of the FBI interfering in a presidential election to sabotage Donald Trump and help the Democratic nominee for president. We don't know how many votes were influenced by this fake, phony kidnapping caper, and we will never know.
So one person's entrapment is another person's sting operation to stop something terrible from occurring, right? That's why the assumptions that you make of the group that you're doing this to and what you say about them publicly. I mean, we saw how many federal courts rule against Trump, during his presidency, not on the basis of jurisprudence, but they didn't like his public comments, right? What they thought he meant or he intended by these actions, not the legalities of them as a standalone, right? Well, two can play at that game if that's if we want to play by that standard now. And so I think, yeah, I mean, you and I would love if we had a law enforcement division capable of stopping terrorists before they terrorized, right? But when you are making it very clear what your political narrative is about a certain group with almost no evidence to back it up. So for example, a bunch of white grandmothers have to take their false knees and false hips out at a TSA because Mohammed Atta and a bunch of Saudis hijacked planes one day and flew them into the towers, right? Because we can't make any assumptions, all right? So a bunch of elderly white and black women have to take their false, hips out and knees out and everything else behind a curtain because we can't make any assumptions. But when it comes to this issue, we can make all kinds of assumptions with no precedent and no evidence whatsoever, just to fuel a political narrative. I mean, hey, if you go find enough men who are on the outs with their wives and haven't felt a female affection for a while, and send them a hot woman who portrays herself as a prostitute, eventually a few of them are going to pay up, right? Because biology kicks in. Is that justice or is that entrapment? That's the question here.
Well, and Steve, what was really illuminating is how the FBI, number one, stitched this group together. These men did not know each other before the FBI got together, started tagging them on social media. Another man had been under surveillance since 2019 because he was making anti-government and anti-law enforcement posts on social media.
So this is not a network of people that were already aligned.
No.
Okay.
No.
They aligned these people together.
Yes, they did. They aligned them. They also made up a fake militia, the Patriot 3% movement, not the 3%ers that we hear about, a separate one where you had FBI informants who were portraying themselves as the head of these state militias, then pulling these men into making the lead informant one of the commanding officers of one of these militias. It was all optics. It was all orchestrated. These militias did not exist. The Wolverine Watchmen, which was supposed to be sort of the conduit, all these men, militiamen who stormed the Lansing Capitol, they wanted to kill the governor. It was a Facebook page. That was it. So allegedly, when the key informant was looking up Second Amendment rights, Facebook algorithms prompted him to this Facebook page. Now, how many times did that happen? During lockdowns, during George Floyd riots? And certainly we know for a fact they were doing it. Stop the Steal hashtags, all of the anti-Biden hashtags. We know, and I've seen this in evidence for January 6ers, is that Facebook was fully in with helping the FBI surveil these hashtags, surveil these groups who were protesting the regime or the incoming regime. So this is a huge, complicated, powerful network of forces who are setting up Americans. It wasn't just a few rogue FBI agents. And this is what I talk about today. There is no doubt Maine Justice knew about this, and there's no doubt that Christopher Wray knew about this. FBI agents testified that they had to get approval. This was a multi-state operation. This wasn't just happening in Michigan.
Not just Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. It's not just not a couple of lone wolves, but an entire network of activism disguised as law enforcement, basically.
Right. This was a multi-state operation, numerous field offices, numerous informants and undercover agents. They used drones. They used airplanes to collect evidence against these defendants at the various excursion locations where they lured them into. This was a costly, complicated operation, and there's no doubt that Chris Wray knew about it. The real question is, what did William Barr know about it? Did he sign off on this? Did he notify Donald Trump what was going on? Did he tell him before the arrests were made, as people were voting across the country, hey, this is what's coming, this is going to be a political firestorm for you, which of course it was. Just another FBI election interference orchestrated at the highest level, and no one has stepped up and taken any accountability, shocker, but the media certainly isn't asking those questions either.
Well, hey, if you want to get an alibi for the worst mass shooting in American history, you want to stop a guy from blowing up a gay nightclub, or a kid from shooting up his school, or the worst child predator in American history from coaching an Olympic team, ignore all those warnings, because we've got a political narrative that we've got to further and fashion here. This is really fascistic kind of stuff, Julie. I got about a minute here. I'll give you the last word on that.
Yes, it is fascism. That's why between what happened in the Whitmer case, it isn't strictly tied to what happened on January 6th. These are the same people in charge of DOJ, The FBI, the lead agent, special agent in charge in Detroit, was moved to the DC FBI field office several weeks before January 6th. All of this is tied together. When people talk about political prisoners, what Putin is doing, we have just as powerful, unaccountable interests and administrative ruling state who wants to take out and punish half of the country for supporting Donald Trump. It's very dangerous territory. It is destroying lives. And of course, as usual, most Republican leaders are completely silent on this.
You've done, again, phenomenal work on this, Julie. Keep it up. All right, I know I keep saying that, but you keep doing it. So keep it up.
Well, thanks for helping me cover it.
You bet.
Appreciate
God
it.
bless you. Take care. Gentlemen,
Right,
thoughts
guys.
on that conversation? These people did not even know each other. The government used Facebook algorithms and other things via social media and over the internet to connect them to each other. This is just classic entrapment.
Well, and using this as a metric for whether or not Donald Trump is serious or not, listen, and this would apply to any president, but since he's the 400-pound gorilla, or candidate, but he's the 400-pound gorilla in the room, if Donald Trump isn't capable of firing Anthony Fauci because of what the media might say, what do we think he's going to be about what absolutely has to be done on day one of a new presidency is looking into the FBI, making sure heads roll, totally reshaping our intelligence environment. Is he capable or interested in doing that? Because the only answer should be yes, and I'm not confident that's what it would be.
Yeah, I think we're beyond drain the swamp here, Aaron, as Todd is pointing out, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at wholesale, systemic church committee for the intelligence community in the 60s and 70s, complete overhaul level of stuff is what we're talking about here. Mass purgings, firings, disclosures, that's what we're talking about here. A fumigation. Hour 2 is next. And we're back with Hour 2, live and on demand here on Blaze TV radio and podcast. I am Steve Deace alongside Aaron McIntyre and Todd Erzin. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox, which you can access by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, Parler, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter and Getter. And for those of you that are podcast listeners, thank you very much. Please, if you've yet to do so, leave us a 5-star review and hit subscribe or follow, whichever applies on wherever you podcast from. Thanks to all of you that have done those things for us already here. We appreciate each and every one of them. And I know that the Mucky Mucks here at The Blaze, they appreciate that as well. You know, trying to sell your home in any economic environment can be challenging, especially one where right now we are having the highest shelter inflation we've seen in the country since 1991, which is why, again, in these unprecedented times, make sure you go in to the real estate market with an agent that you can trust. How would you get one of those kinds of agents? Well, we made it as simple for you as possible with this website. realestateagentsitrust.com is where you can go to find a real estate agent with a fully proven, vetted track record of success, someone who will come in, take charge of your situation. But remember that ultimately you are the one that's in charge here and they work for you. If you are looking to anywhere you want to move to or from here in the US of A and you want to make sure you're guided by an agent you can trust, just go to the website, realestateagentsitrust.com. All right, coming up here at the bottom of the hour for Pop Culture Tuesday, the Babylon Bee put out, well, it's what they do, but this is a rather clever look. I think it was the Will Smith slap and how a pantheon of media platforms from right to left, how they would react in one headline to the Will Smith slap. And I think it's a fascinating snapshot of American media, and we will discuss it here coming up at the bottom of the hour. But first, we are rejoined by good friend of the show, Dr. Ryan Cole. And you know, you got 360 little spots in your body from the top of your neck down to your feet. These are called joints, and they are hugely important for activity and staying active, especially as we get older. But as we get older, they can also become little hubs for inflammation, the kind of inflammation that's probably causing your chronic pain, which to you will feel like, and to me, nagging and lingering soreness and achiness in places like our back and our knees and our hips and our neck. And that's why you're looking for an all-natural anti-inflammatory backed by going on a third decade of clinical research and going on a third year of my daily usage. It's called Omega XL, and I can personally attest to its effectiveness. I take it with me wherever I go. I was in Vegas over the weekend for some vacation. I took my Omega XL there with me as well. If you want to give Omega XL a shot and see if it doesn't do for you what it has done for me and so many others, you can try it right now. Buy one, get one free. Buy one bottle, get a second one for free when you visit omegaxl.com/Steve. Again, that's omegaxl.com/Steve, or you can give them a call at 800-844-4888. All right, let's get to Pop Culture Tuesday when we look at the intersection between pop culture and conservatism. And I would say so far the pop culture story, moment, event of the year was the Will Smith slap at the Oscars. The reverberations of that are still being felt. And let me say this just as a side note, and maybe I'm showing weakness because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, okay? But while I still absolutely reject the notion that there is never a time to put a man down for insulting your wife, that it's just never needed. I reject that with every fiber of my being. I have to say, the more I learn that video that was going around over the weekend, okay, of her putting him like on a Facebook Live or TikTok or something live in real time, okay? The look on his face, I mean, the more I learn and it comes out about that relationship, as it pertains to this particular situation, I'm starting to feel a little like maybe I need to Homer Simpson gift this thing and just slowly back into the bushes. You know what I'm trying to say? Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're dealing with a very damaged individual and a very damaged relationship, and a woman who has essentially fashioned herself as the self-anointed symbol of third wave feminism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't intend to get into that, but I've been thinking that the last few days. I absolutely still think there is a time and a place to put a dude down for insulting your wife. I'm now beginning to think that maybe that wasn't. Now knowing what I know now, I'm not so sure that was the time and the place or what was going on there. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, the rush, you just never hit. You know, like the entire culture isn't a bunch of 5-year-olds, who had their blanket taken away or something. But that's how we talk to each other. With the Christian sensibility is just to be. They all say instead of the Ukrainian flag, there's a lot of the women that we may be talking about in the overtime. It's like kindness above all and things like that. And it's just it didn't allow us out of the gate to have the most honest conversation we could have about this whole thing, because you have to just get through all of that boilerplate cat poster nonsense.
Well said. All right, so in response to this, the Babylon Bee put out kind of a satire, a parody of a pantheon of media sources and the headlines that they would come up with in order to report on the Will Smith slap. All right, 14 of them. Let's take these one by one. All right, right to left, the whole gamut of the media pantheon. Fox News: Oscars plagued by rise in black on black crime.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Good
start.
Why does that apply to Fox, do you think?
Well, I think it applies to Fox because that's kind of being written through the lens of like Brian Stelter at CNN, what they believe Fox to be.
There are a couple of outlets that Fox is one of them that like never get censored by Facebook or, unless it's Tucker Carlson. But holistically, never get censored by Facebook and Twitter like we do at the Blaze, like daily. Okay. And what's interesting though is it's because they won't go after the steal of the last election, and they're pretty soft on COVID stuff. Or they wait until it's all clear to talk about COVID stuff, and then they do it like a year or two later, right? But for whatever reason, they go to the wall on the race stuff. And I don't know why, but that doesn't seem to trigger the Facebook and stuff censors and algorithms the way that going after COVID. And so that's why this fits to me. This fits perfectly in with, this is an issue that Fox feels safe within its business model and within the current big tech oligarch censorship. We can go to the mattresses on the race stuff, but we can't when it comes to COVID, Fauci, or election integrity.
Well, this isn't a perfect algorithm in how they think, but on some level, they want Fox to say things like this, so
it feeds their race narrative
they can
too.
call it racist.
Yeah, that's a good point.
On COVID, they can't let the truth get out about that.
That's a very good point, Todd. That may be the explainer right there. All right, next. From Huffington Post, the patriarchal roots of slapping exposed. Aaron, that's on the money.
It is right on the money. Yeah, everything is rooted in the patriarchy. You could, you could take a jar of cheese balls that I have laying on the floor here and say, the patriarchal roots of Oots cheese balls explained. You could totally see that being written at some place.
The future is female from the same people that don't know what a female is. All right, third. All right, from CNN. Mostly peaceful Oscars threatens to distract from January 6th commission. That's cash money, guys.
I think these are all real headlines that were written by. I don't think this is even parody.
Or if they're not actually written, they would be revealed with the Wonder Woman's lasso of truth of what they really want to do, what's really going on in their hearts of hearts. Yeah, agreed. Okay, next. From One America News. If they hadn't stolen the election from Trump, this never would have happened. Poor OAN is actually willing to go there, and now they're off of DirecTV. They've been deplatformed for going there, right? So, but I think that's pretty much right on the money. Yeah, that's well done. Yep. Salon. White supremacy has gotten out of hand.
I know I read basically a paraphrase of that as a real headline.
And there were some reactions to that on Twitter the night that it happened, the day after it happened.
Before we continue on, parents have a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children, but that right is more under attack than ever before. For grooming supposedly not being a real thing, there certainly are one hell of a lot of groomer videos done by groomers out there on social media I'm seeing every single day, right?
There are.
So if you want to support the rights of parents, talk to our friends and invest in our friends over at Alliance Defending Freedom. They represent all of their clients pro bono, which means they require tax deductible, easy for me to say on 4.5 hours of sleep, tax deductible donations from folks just like us. I've donated to them. I wouldn't ask you guys to donate to something I'm not willing to donate to myself. They do first class work in this field. If you want to support them with your own tax-deductible donation, you can do so today at adflegal.org/Steve. ADF, for Alliance Defending Freedom. adflegal.org/Steve. They take these cases all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary, but they need our help to fund those cases and causes at adflegal.org/Steve. All right, next. This one is from Snopes. False. Will did not slap Chris. Chris's cheek struck the palm of Will's hand.
Yep. That thing that you just saw with your own two eyes, you did not in fact see, nor did it even happen.
I have a question in all this. Who's Chris Rock? I mean, that's what's remarkable about all of this. We're talking about, on one hand, and it only alluded to it in the first one, black on black crime, but we're talking about Jada, we're talking about Will, we're talking about this as a legacy of the race, all that stuff. Like, Chris Rock, just honestly, he got on with his life. He's doing shows, but it's amazing. A guy got hit on live TV, and he's not even the victim in this narrative. And that sets us. This sets aside what your point was philosophical early on about, can you hit a dude who insults your wife? This is a dude who did actually get hit about a pretty clean joke, which is a more specific thing, an actual potential crime. And we talk about everything. The Oscars, he's not, he never comes up. I think that's what's remarkable in all of this. And it's why I bring this up, because of what we're doing. This is how narratives are cast. You can disappear somebody who was on live television. Everybody saw it. You can still disappear him because of how we've been conditioned.
Hadn't thought about that. All right, next clip. This one is from Vox. Rethinking the slap, why getting slapped is actually a good thing.
Why fill in the blank bad thing is actually a good thing.
Yes.
That's Vox. Yeah.
Now, Todd, you need to know there is no David French. Okay, the conservative case for smacking that bitch up. All right, there's not that didn't make the Babylon Bee.
Wait till Sunday.
Okay, smacking that bitch up is a blessing of liberty. That didn't make the Babylon Bee pantheon. I don't want to disappoint you. All right, next on the list, Daily Wire. Will Smith destroys, in all caps. I love that. Will Smith destroys Chris Rock with this one simple gesture.
All too easy.
That one was great. That's well done. These are all very well done so far, but yes. Teen Vogue, oh no. Will Smith's totally hot slap and how you can use it on your genderqueer partner in the bedroom. That sounds like something that should be good. I must confess, I'm not all that familiar with the content of Teen Vogue, but that I'm guessing sounds like how they would spin this, right?
If that's on the money for something called Teen Vogue, not just Vogue, wow, no wonder where we are.
Weren't they doing like anal sex tips for teen girls or something like a couple of years ago?
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that was in the news, wasn't it?
Okay, the last 10 seconds are a violation of the dude code. Let's move on.
Okay. Well, we have daughters, man.
Oh, I know.
Okay. So I don't even know where they sell it, but when that hit the news, I remember it kind of being a controversy. But all right, next. Oh boy. InfoWars. Illuminati members stage fake slap to distract us all from implementation of the New World Order.
That's a miss so far. There were no gay frogs in there. I needed more from that one.
Not to mention, this actually was kind of used to distract us from what else is actually going on. It kind of was a squirrel, but okay. Does Jones talk about the Illuminati a lot? Does that come up a lot? Do you guys know?
Of course.
I've never seen Alex Jones show ever.
Okay. Vice. This might be my favorite one. I can't even say it with a straight face. I slapped myself 100 times and smoked crack to better understand the black experience in America. I kind of feel like that one should have been last. I mean, how do you top that? That's cash money, homie.
It's like Chris Rock wrote that one for us.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's not even parody. That is straight up how that platform handles its business right there. You bet. All right. The View. Okay, this is good. All right, that might be the best one. Especially in light of the conversation we're about to have on the overtime. Were you?
Yes.
Yeah, great minds think alike. Okay. Not the Bee. This is the Babylon Bee's editorial site that's not satire. Check this out. Will Smith straight up pimp slaps woke comedian Chris Rock, reminding us all how The Last Jedi truly sucked. Did you write that one, Todd?
It was implied, yes.
All right, we have one more.
Beautiful.
And this is the Babylon Bee. Will Smith is the Babylon Bee's Woman of the Year. Oh, folks, when you've got places where a lot of data mining takes place in foreign countries, and those foreign countries are faced with distress like war, it is absolutely a target-rich environment for cyber thieves and scammers. And one of their biggest targets, American homeowners. Why? Because our deeds pretty much is all we have to prove we own the home, and a lot of those titles are kept online these days, making them vulnerable to scammers. They hack in there, make it look like you have sold your home to them on a form like a quitclaim deed. Then they start liquidating your equity, and then often you don't find out about it until the kinds of emails and voicemails and snail mails you never want to see start showing up. Your homeowner's insurance, your mortgage lender cannot protect you. But this is what our friends at Home Title Lock, this is what they do. They put a virtual barrier around your home's title so that the instant they detect any nefarious activity whatsoever, they mobilize to shut it down. Find out right now if you've been targeted and don't even know it by going to HomeTitleLock.com. Again, register your address there at HomeTitleLock.com. All right, we've got about a minute here. We're going to stick around after this show and bring in our colleague Sarah Gonzalez from here at BlazeTV. And we're going to discuss this poll that came out over the weekend that showed Joe Biden is hemorrhaging now everywhere except one group. And he's not only not hemorrhaging with that group, he's actually grown his base of support. College-educated women who are all overwhelmingly white. In other words, white, affluent, suburban women. He's actually gained with that base. On the other hand, college men who went to all the same universities and got all the same indoctrination, he has suffered a 26-point swing of loss of support. How do we explain this? We'll get into it with the overtime here. We're going to tape it right now, put it up later today for you at blazetv.com/Deace. For the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, John 3:17.